Mary.
Host, and I'll be with you through 4 p.m. We have plenty of things to get to today, so let's talk a little bit about what we're expecting in this first hour that we have here together as we are awaiting a couple of things to come through here. So over the weekend, we had a horse rescue that took place that had so many people talking. I mean, it really was one of our most trending topics online. And so today we are awaiting a press conference that's going to be happening later on in the hour to get more details about what happened to the horse to end up out there in the creek. It was Coon Creek, and the Marengo Fire and Rescue District is going to be hosting a press conference so that we have the information that so many of us have been seeking. It was horrible to see the horse out there, but wonderful to know that we have so many great first responders who were able to safely and effectively get it back home safely. So we'll be hearing from them a little bit later on in the hour. We're also going to have a personal injury attorney on to talk about the third highest medical practice award for an adult patient in the state of Illinois. And I'm telling you, when you hear the information behind this case, it really is shocking, a bit heartbreaking that it even had to come to this point. But we're going to be hearing that information shortly. Also, we'll have a reporter from the Indiana Capitol Chronicle on who's going to be giving us a scoop on Governor Braun's plans for gas taxes in the state. If you were with us last week, we had one of the analysts from Gas Buddy on who, I asked, hey, well, with these gas prices going through the roof for so many people, a lot of people who are in Illinois say, I'm going over to Indiana, I'll drive back, let me go get my gas over here. He actually said if you're going to make a drive to get gas, which that in and of itself is something, but if you're going to make that drive, actually Wisconsin would be a better state than going south to Indiana. So we're going to hear about the new plan for gas taxes in Indiana, at least for the short term, coming up shortly from that reporter who has been on that story today. We are also awaiting a press conference that should be happening any moment now in New York. You can see everyone is gathered there today. There's been a lot of conversation, a lot of buzz about the Gilgo murders suspect changing his plea in that case. You talk about things that have shocked so many people. That particular case, this person who is right among everyone in the community that you go on to find out is suspected in 7 women murders. It's been so much. And initially he said, no, it wasn't me. This man had a family. He's, again, just living right among everyone. And then today he changed his plea. This Rex Heuermann, a Long Island architect, now pleading guilty to murdering 7 women and admitting that he killed another, although we don't have all the information even on that case just yet here. So the Gilgo Beach killings have really mystified people for some time now, and just getting a bit more information, a bit more closure, if you will, for these families now that he is pleading guilty, 3 counts of first-degree murder and 4 of intentional murder. These killings go back to 1996. So we're awaiting this press conference that should be happening any minute now to give us the information about how they got here. How we ended up with a changed plea from a man who initially said, no, you got the wrong guy. Investigators and members of the public were packed into the courtroom as everyone kind of heard that he would be changing his plea today. Rex Heuermann has an ex-wife, a daughter. They were there for this proceeding today, and in fact have said, my thoughts and prayers are with the victims and their families. Their loss is immeasurable, and the focus should be on them at this time and moment. This is the ex-wife saying, I ask that you give some privacy to my family as they navigate through this very difficult time. Can you even imagine? What they've gone through as well. But let's listen into this press conference as it now gets ready to begin.
You all set? I'll take that as a yes. Okay, good afternoon. Thanks everyone for coming. This defendant walked among us, play acting as a normal suburban dad, when in reality, all along, he was obsessively targeting innocent women for death. He identified these women, lured them into Nassau County, murdered them, and left their bodies in Suffolk County. He thought that by killing them, he could silence them forever and get away with murder. But he was wrong, because it was these victims, these women, who refused to stay silent. First, that silence was broken by the victims' families, who advocated for their loved ones and agitated for justice. Then, the noise grew louder through the ensuing investigation and examination of the evidence that the defendant left at or around the crime scenes, as well as on the bodies of the women themselves, that further told the stories of these victims and what had actually happened to them. It was this evidence that ultimately was put together by the task force that proved to be the defendant's undoing and led to the pleas of guilt in today's court proceeding. And it is in this way that these murders were solved. And while we in law enforcement, as well as our Suffolk County citizens, mourn the loss of these victims, we are also grateful to them and to their families, because without them, this defendant would have never been brought to justice and would still be walking amongst us. And he would still be portraying himself as that same harmless father next door, instead of what he is, a convicted murderer. Ultimately, this case is really about these victims and their stories. It is not about this defendant. And I speak for everyone in law enforcement, and when I say we are honored and thankful for being able to have played a small role in obtaining a small measure of justice for these families. For decades, this case stood out as a painful scar on the face of Suffolk County law enforcement, Suffolk County government, the citizens of Suffolk County, and the victims' families as well. However, with the defendant's pleas of guilt today, it means that for the first time since the deaths of these women, we can turn to all of these same people and say, Rex Uhrman will be held responsible for the 1993 murder of Sandra Castilla, the 1996 murder of Karen Vergata, the 2000 murder of Valerie Mack, the 2003 murder of Jessica Taylor, the 2007 murder of Maureen Brainerd Barnes, the 2009 murder of Melissa Bartholomew, the June 2009 murder of Megan Waterman, and the September 2010 murder of Ms. Costello. Despite this tragedy, there's a lot of different emotions, and I guess the word for today, despite the tragedy, despite all those emotions, is thankfulness. We are thankful. We have a lot to be thankful for, despite these emotions. First and foremost, we are thankful for the victims and the victims' families who told their stories, their loved ones' stories, and defended their loved ones' legacies. Without them, we would have never truly gotten to know those victims. My start in this case occurred before I took office. A homicide detective with the Suffolk County PD, Pat Portella, gave my phone number to Melissa and Amanda. Melissa is, of course, Maureen Brainerd Barnes' sister, and Amanda is Melissa Bartholomew's sister. And they spoke with me. We had a really good phone conversation. And during that phone conversation, I heard the pain and frustration in their voices. They wanted answers. They wanted closure. I told them that we were going to do things differently. It was going to be a new manner of doing things. We were going to form a task force, and we were going to bring all of the talents of all these people standing here to bear. and we were going to work together. We were going to not use this case as a political football to be kicked into the news stream on slow days or whenever it suited the political leader's purpose. We were going to be quiet. We were going to pretend as though it was business as usual in Suffolk County. And the reason why we were going to do that was because we knew what we were doing. We were playing to an audience of one. And that one person, of course, was the murderer. We wanted to lure that individual into a false sense of security. We wanted him to think he got away with this. And that was exactly what we did. And the reason why we wanted to do that is because when we solved this case and we had those arrest warrants and executed those search warrants, we wanted more evidence, and that's exactly what we got. So we were thankful for that. We were thankful we were able to bring this case to a close, but it started, our inspiration was these victims and their families. But those families were so much more to us. Through them, we truly got to know these victims. When we started, the victims were nothing but names on a blotter, black and white, writing on investigative reports. But once we spoke to the victims, they provided us with the color of these women, and we got to know them as the wonderful mothers, sisters, friends, and daughters that they were. And that inspired us even more to close this case, to come to a resolution. So again, first and foremost, we are thankful for those families. And I just want to individually mention all of the families. The Brainerd Barnes family, I already spoke with Melissa, but I want to thank Melissa and her husband Chris and their children. Marie, who is Maureen's mom, Nicolette and Dylan, who are Maureen's two children. We want to thank them for their support, not only of Maureen, but for our investigation as well. And we want to say, on behalf of Suffolk County, we're sorry. The Bartholomew family, Amanda, who's Melissa's sister, Lynn, her mom, and Jeff, Lynn's partner. We want to thank them as well. When this case started, it started with the grand. Well, it didn't start, but the charging started with the grand jury, and Amanda, Lynn, and Melissa came down and helped us with the grand jury. And I remember when Lynn came in, it was about a 2-day proceeding, and when Lynn first walked in, she appeared a certain way, and by the end of that second day, she looked completely different. You could see that having forced her to relive this, you could see the sadness in her face and in her eyes, and we're sorry for that. But without their cooperation, we wouldn't be here today. So to Amanda, Lynn, Jeff, and everyone in the Bartholomew family, we want to say thank you, and we want to say we're sorry. To the Waterman family, we have Megan's aunt, Liz, and we have her daughter, Lily. We want to thank them. We didn't get to know them until after the indictment, but again, the way that they stood by Megan and the way they supported us, we want to say to them, thank you, and we're sorry. To Amber Costello and her family, specifically Amber's sister Kim, we want to say thank you, and again, thank you for the support, and again, we're sorry for the loss of Amber. Valerie Mack, we met shortly before the indictment. We met Ed and Joanne Mack. Ed and Joanne Mack were foster parents and then the adopted parents of Valerie, and they gave Valerie the only happy home she ever knew, and really the only support she probably ever knew in her life. Meeting with them, they're incredibly special people. They're heroes. We also got to know Valerie's sister Angela and her son Aaron. Again, equally wonderful people. So to them, we want to say thank you, and we're sorry. Jessica Taylor, we got to know Jessica's mom, Liz, after the indictment. Prior to the indictment, we got to know Jessica's cousin, Jasmine. And right after the initial indictment of the first 3 victims, Jasmine came to us on behalf of Liz and said, please help us.
Okay, we've been listening into this press conference, still at the very beginning stages here of thanking the families that were involved in bringing this case thus far now to closure, essentially, now that the suspect, Rex Heuermann, in the Gilgo Beach murders is pleading, changing his plea today to guilty. They talked about, him being parading, essentially, as a normal suburban dad for more than 2 decades. These murders going from 1993 to 2010. All the while he's married, he's got a child that he's raising, all of these things. And they said that, he was targeting women for death in the midst of all of that, and that he left the bodies in Suffolk County. But these victims' families that they're calling out now, that they're thanking now, refused to stay silent. They fought for justice over all of these years, and now we get to this day where he has changed his plea to guilty, and they can at least breathe a sigh of relief from that standpoint, that they will not have to go through a lengthy trial as he fights for his own justice. That has changed. Initially, he said, "Oh no, it's not me." Now he's saying, yes, it was. So they are just kind of, again, at the beginning stages of this press conference. We're not going to get to hear all of the details from them getting the evidence and getting to this stage today. We're going to continue on with our conversations here. But again, the big news is that Rex Heuermann, the suspect in the Gilgo Beach murders, has changed his plea to guilty. I have our political reporter, Paris Schutz, here in studio now, so that we can talk about a little craziness that's happening in our area. And this has to do with the mayor's administration. What is going on?
This is a pattern now, Anita, where you see high-level officials leaving or being fired and then coming out and making some damning accusations against the mayor's top people here and how they're running things. So last night, we did a story based on some emails that we uncovered, and this going back to the resignation of the city's Human Relations Commissioner, Nancy Andrade. She resigned last month, and she had a cryptic statement saying there was something here for why she did this. This didn't just happen by accident. So we filed a Freedom of Information request for some emails, and boy, oh boy, it laid out pages and pages of a laundry list of complaints and accusations against the mayor's chief of staff, Cristina Pacione-Zayas, and the chief equity officer, a woman named Carla Coupe, basically accusing them of bullying, harassment, hostile work environment, quid pro quo, diluting a report on anti-Semitism she was working on. And that seems to be the crux of what this tension grew out of between the mayor's senior staff and this department, where they were tasked with coming up with a report recommending on how to combat anti-Semitic hate crimes. The mayor's senior staff, according to Andrade in these emails, fought her on this and wanted to make it more about hate in general and wanted to take away some of the more specific anti-Semitic references. And she says they wouldn't allow her to communicate with certain Jewish organizations. They wouldn't allow her to have testimony in a public hearing on this from some victims of anti-Semitic hate crimes. And so she complained that they were micromanaging, and then alleged that they made it clear to her that they would bully and harass her if she didn't get on board with the program. And she said, "I resign instead."
Wow.
And that's what we got from these emails. Now, she didn't offer any comment when we confronted her with this, but basically, indicating the emails speak for themselves. So go watch the story. I mean, it's a lot of accusations here, but what's interesting here is that this is not in a vacuum. We've heard Gary and Gatewood say similar things like this, that there's a target on your back. We've heard other folks in the past that left, and we've seen the mayor get really kind of cracking down on maybe purging his administration of people who he doesn't feel are sufficiently loyal.
Well, you say purging, and we're having this discussion on the same day that he did announce a list of new appointments.
Sure, yeah. And we'll go with the deputy mayor of public safety, a gentleman, Emmanuel Andrade, who is a former public defender, who also served on this commission to select a new inspector general, because the IG is retiring, and that's raising some eyebrows. Now he's going to step down from that. But Andre, from all conversations I've had, is more in line with what their core ideology is, which has been, in terms of public safety, more restorative justice, less emphasis on policing, more emphasis on resources, restorative justice, and youth programming. Whereas Gatewood was on that train too, but what he explained was after several years on the job, you realized you had to have a dialogue with the police department. You do have to fight crime. You know, if teens are going to do teen trends and stuff, you have to do something about it and not just allow it to disrupt the safety of everybody else around. So there was a tension there. And so will this new appointment of Emmanuel Andrade be no relation, I don't think, to Nancy Andrade? Will that be more in that direction? It certainly appears that way. And will that cause some tension with the police department? What I was told was Gatewood was kind of a bridge here,
right.
And then his deputy, Manny Whitfield, who we also interviewed, they were a bridge here. They communicated very closely with police and the mayor's office. And will that be strained? Will that be tested now? A lot of people are watching for that.
A lot of people watching all of this, and it has been very interesting to see who's going, who's coming, what were the circumstances behind these different things, and get a bit of a picture as to where we're going here in the city as we gear up over the summer to really start the mayoral election cycle. And he hasn't said whether he's fully in yet or not.
It's really interesting. I mean, you could look at all these moves as a precursor to an announcement to run again. He's making sure his ship's sailing in all the same direction, that everybody on board is on the team, rowing in the same beat, and not taking it this way or that way. So you certainly could look at that, and he's got a political advisor named Jason Lee who basically runs all this, but we haven't heard from him.
Right.
And he said things like, well, I've got kids in high school, and I'm worried about that, and so it sounds like maybe he's thinking about not running again. I don't know. You would think that this movement that he came out of, his political movement, the CTU at the heart of it, they don't want to just give up the power.
Yeah.
They've been interested in exercising the power. Look at what's happened at the school board over the last year. So it doesn't seem to me they want to give up the power. Do I read a little bit into Mayor Johnson maybe thinking about, do I really want to keep doing this? I got kids in high school. This job is thankless. His approval rating has been very, very low for most of his term. I see that tension maybe. And maybe he hasn't made up his mind at the end of the day. But I do think that movement wants to continue on. CTU doesn't want to just ride off into the sunset.
Yeah. Well, you never know who could be being built as the successor.
Maybe they're grooming a successor.
Yeah.
I mean, Stacey Davis Gates now is running the state union and the city union, so she's got a lot on her plate. But you're right, that could be a thing, and there's no shortage of folks now that are going to be in the other lane to take on the CTU.
Correct.
Given what's happened over the last 4 years, so that's going to be very interesting how that shakes out. You'd think that the mayor would say something official pretty soon.
Have to be.
Yeah.
What the paperwork has to be filed for everyone
this
over
summer.
the summer.
Yeah.
So very soon we shall see. But thank you for coming
All
up.
right.
We
Always a
appreciate it
pleasure.
as always. 1:23, everyone. We're going to take a quick 2-minute break. Our next guest is already on the line, and I'll give you some of the headlines of the day as well when we come back from this break. Okay, welcome back, everyone. It is 1:25 right now, and as we prepare for our next guest, I just want to give you a few of the bigger stories that we are watching throughout the day here locally. We know that the man charged in connection with the Chicago firefighter's death is in court today. His name is Chavez Slate, and if you recall, just a few weeks ago, I mean, we just had the private service for firefighter EMT Michael Altman, fourth generation firefighter here in this city, but he was fighting a fire in Rogers Park when he was on the first floor, and that first floor gave way. He fell into the basement. Well, a man set that fire. He had been living in that home, had been asked to leave by the other roommates in that home, came back, broke in, and set that fire, and that ultimately took the life of firefighter EMT Michael Altman. And so he is in court today, Chavez Slate. Also, we've been watching this rally with NIPSCO workers as they've been locked out. It's 1,600 United Steelworkers who have been locked out from their jobs. Negotiations still ongoing there, and so we are continuing to follow that saga, really. We've heard from so many people who have been on those picket lines that say, like, I've been loyal to this company for years. There was one man's soundbite earlier today that said, like, I've missed things with my family. I've been here day in and day out. I just never would have thought I'd be standing on the outside looking in from a job that I've been loyal to. But negotiations continue on with NIPSCO, and so that is another story that we're continuing to follow, as well as the Iran ceasefire. So much still up in the air. I mean, there is a ceasefire, but there's still a lot of movement in the midst of it. So on the one hand, Iran is already reclosing the Strait of Hormuz, which was a critical piece of wanting a ceasefire, was to start getting some ships through the Strait of Hormuz, the economy around the world so critically attached to this one strait because of so much oil and trade that goes through that region. So they have closed the Strait of Hormuz today, but we also know that Israel has continued to make strikes against Lebanon. And so the Iranians are saying, wait, I mean, we said this can't happen. The President Trump, has said there's nothing in there that says that Israel can't strike Lebanon. It's that the U.S. can't strike Lebanon, and we're not the ones striking them right now. So there's still a lot going on, and there's a big question as to whether this ceasefire, which is supposed to be 2 weeks, if it actually will hold. We're watching all of it. You'll hear more about it in our later shows, but we're going to get to our next conversation about what's going on in Indiana. A large part, again, of what's going on with the Strait of Hormuz has affected gas prices throughout the country. And today, the governor made a big announcement there in Indiana where that's concerned. So let's go ahead and bring in our next guest, who is with one of the newspapers there in Indiana. Thank you so much, Nikki Kelly from the Indiana Capital Chronicle, for joining me right now on Chicago Live. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
So I understand you've been following this probably more so than we have. What was Governor Braun's announcement?
So he is doing a 30-day suspension of the sales tax on gasoline, which is slightly different than the gas tax. So he thinks Hoosiers, the inflation is, too much, and Hoosiers need a break. So suspending the sales tax on gas would save motorists about 17 cents a gallon right now.
And has anyone done the math as to, like, okay, when I filled up last week, this is what it was. If with this change, here's what it would be now?
Well, I mean, I actually just filled up this morning and did 10 gallons. So, I mean, it would save you what, $1.70, for 10 gallons kind of thing. So, yeah. It's not the first time that's happened here in Indiana. Back in 2000, long time ago, Governor Frank O'Bannon did it. At that time, he did it for 120 days. And, the irony is back then it was nearing $2 a gallon, which was huge, right? And now we're over $4 a gallon. And so, other governors have said, I think Governor Daniels, a couple of years ago was asked to do it. He had an opinion from the Attorney General's office that said he didn't have the authority to do it. But clearly Mike Braun believes he does have that authority.
And so I'm seeing that this was an emergency declaration. What did he talk about in the announcement?
Yeah, it's technically called an energy emergency. He talked just mostly about the inflation and the affordability of gas right now. And so technically the law requires a finding of a specific shortage of fuel, but he didn't talk about that at all. He focused only on the rising prices and inflation. He is hopeful that this ceasefire will bring prices down, but he's left it open to extend it past the 30 days if it doesn't.
Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of people are hoping that there's some relief for longer rather than a shorter period of time. What has been, your fellow Hoosiers' reactions in this immediate time of at least getting this bit of relief?
Yeah, I mean, people probably just finding out about it. It's only a couple hours old. I will say this, Republican incumbent lawmakers who are facing primary challenges, and our primary is coming up in a month, are all on board. They've been applauding it and saying we needed to do that. So that's been interesting to see come out.
And affordability is such a big issue for those who are on ballots throughout the country, both Democrats and Republicans, but especially Republicans in a midterm year.
Yeah, and some of the members who are facing tough fights have been dealing with attack ads about a gas tax vote, a big increase in gas taxes from back in 2017. So I think they would like any good news to share with their constituents as they, try to work through their primary right now.
Yeah, and speaking of that primary, another major talker regarding it has been President Trump saying that for those who are incumbents, that they're in trouble right now with him because they defied him with the redistricting vote.
Absolutely. He has come out and endorsed a number of challengers to sitting GOP incumbents. And some of these are longtime conservative lawmakers who, they might have voted everything he ever wanted except for that one redistricting vote, and he is coming hard for them.
That's kind of how it goes. This is interesting. And is this you all's big story of the day, or is there something there in Indiana that you all are following that's even bigger than this that maybe we aren't in tune to yet?
No, this one's definitely the big one, especially coming at a time going back to when Governor O'Bannon did it. It costs, it saves taxpayers, right? But that means it also is money not coming in to go to state coffers, to roads. And so we've been having, a lot of road issues, and whether we might add tolls here in Indiana to some highways because our road funding isn't keeping up. So to, do a policy that's going to mean less money for the roads is an interesting thing.
Yeah, that is very interesting indeed. We were speaking with a representative from Gas Buddy last week. I mentioned this a short while ago on the show here. And I talked to him about the fact that there are so many people who live here in Illinois who are right there at the border with Indiana, and they say, well, I just drive over to Indiana to get my gas. And he's like, actually, that's not the most helpful thing these days. You would get a bigger break in like Wisconsin than you would in Indiana these days.
Yeah, Indiana has high gas taxes. I think we're, in the top 10 nationwide. And part of the reason for that is because we apply our sales tax to gas purchases. A lot of states don't. So that's an additional 7% that you're paying on top of the federal gas tax and the state gas tax.
So where do you think this puts Mike Braun? I mean, you've mentioned some of the other governors that tried or, considered this. What do you think, like the overall feeling, and if you maybe haven't seen in a while or have, like his approval ratings right now, what do they look like?
His approval ratings have been pretty low, in the 30s and 40% range. And so I think someone even said there was one at 17%, but I am not positive about that one. So, I think he's hoping it'll give him a good, tick up. It can't hurt, right?
Not if 17% was accurate. That's pretty low. All
In
right.
fact, that was a press release that came from the Democratic Party, was
okay.
a 17-cent cut for a 17% approval rating governor.
Okay, all right. And then obviously, one of the issues that people have really patted him on the back about, honestly, in the midst of the possible 17% approval rating, has been his fighting for the Chicago Bears to end up in Indiana. Have you heard any more on that? I got to ask you while I've got you here.
Yeah, I mean, I think they have put the plan out on the table. They've been very forceful and efficient about it. Now it's all in the Bears' hand. And frankly, it's all in Illinois lawmakers' hands. They've been sitting on this for more than a year. So I'm not sure that the Bears are going to wait much longer, especially when they have a really viable option sitting right there in front of them.
Time is a ticking for sure, and they do have an option, a bird in the hand. I always say a bird in the hand. So thank you so much for joining us today. We certainly appreciate it, and I'm sure we're going to have to call you back when we get some movement on any of these big topics, okay?
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Take care. It's 1:37, everyone. Let's take a quick 2-minute break, and then we're going to get into our next conversation about this major personal injury case here in our state. All right, welcome back, everyone. It's about 1:40 right now, and our next conversation, boy, it really just boggles your mind to think of situations like this. This is the state's third highest medical malpractice award for an adult patient. And the details of it we're going to get into right now with attorney Jason Williams with Smith. Is it Lachin?
Lacine.
Lacine.
Everybody thinks he's French. It's really Italian.
Okay. Lacine, LLP. Thank you so much for your time.
It's great to be with you, Anita. How are you today?
I'm doing okay. I hope that this gentleman is okay. $51 million verdict here in a blood glucose case. Walk us through it.
Sure. So this case starts with John Reinke, who was a long-haul truck driver. He was an entrepreneurial young man. He was 47 years old at the time, and he was from Texas. He was from Huntsville, Texas. And he was up here in the Urbana area, just plying his trade and driving his truck. And he had a headache that started behind his right eye, and it radiated around to the right side of his head. And he didn't get headaches. He'd never had a headache like this before, and that's what he told the medical providers. And it was a 9 out of 10, which, everybody knows the FACES pain scale in their medical records when they're asked to fill it out when they go to the doctor. This was a 9. That means it was very severe to the worst pain of his life. And, at the hospital, OSF, Heart of Mary down in Urbana, they gave him some pain medication. They gave him a steroid, which is known to raise blood glucose. And John had a history of gout, which has an association with diabetes. Mm-hmm. And he was also a heavier guy. His body mass index was in the diabetic range, or the diabetic risk factor range. And they gave him some Toradol, which is a high-powered, it's like high-powered Tylenol, essentially. It's a non-steroid anti-inflammatory. And then they gave him a CT scan. And when the CT scan came back clean, like he wasn't having a stroke, he wasn't bleeding into his brain, anything like that, they diagnosed him with a tension headache and sent him home. And he was far away from home. He didn't have anybody to watch him. He was alone. And about 50 hours later, his heart stopped. He stopped breathing and his heart stopped. And his parents had been coming to help him get his truck back to Texas because they told him that this headache could last a while. It's right in the medical records. And so his parents were coming up to help him out, and they actually found him just before he stopped breathing. They called 911. In the field, EMS did a blood glucose test, a finger stick test, and it read high. And when John got to the hospital, they tested his blood sugar and all sorts of other things again. And his blood glucose was 1367. Now, 100 is normal for, you and I, for non-diabetics. And so that is a dangerous, life-threatening blood sugar level. And then they tested his blood glucose over the last 3 months, which is called an A1C test, a hemoglobin A1C test. And what that does is can tell you what your average blood sugar is for the last 3 months. And it was greater than 14. And 14 is where they stop measuring on these machines. And so, and what happens is when your blood sugar gets that high, acid builds up and it stops your heart eventually. And so it's a life-threatening condition that we felt should have been screened in the ER, and it just wasn't. And so Mr. Rinke now, he was down without oxygen for about 30 minutes. So he suffered a truly catastrophic brain injury, but he's in there. He's trying. He just got approved for a communication device that he can operate with his eyes. And so one of the impacts of this verdict, hopefully, is that we can give John his voice back. He can't walk, talk, or eat. He's G-tube dependent for nutrition. But his parents and his sister down there in Texas are taking great care of him. And it's really, they're a really deserving family. And this patient is really deserving of this award. Let's put it that way, by the jury.
Well, I mean, his life was flipped upside down. It's a miracle that he is alive, but your life changed forever at this point in time. And did the hospital, did the workers, I mean, did they ever try to fight this? Did they ever try to say anything other than we messed up?
No, we actually went to trial, and meaning they didn't admit that they did anything wrong up until all the way through the entire case. And they advanced and they argued to the jury that there were no indications that this was just a headache, and ER doctors see headaches every day. And they did not take responsibility in any way, and that's that's the function of the jury in this, in our great country here, to determine who's responsible for such things. And the jury, thankfully agreed with the case that we put forward. And it even shows that emergency room doctors, their job is to rule out dangerous causes of a headache before assuming that a headache is just a headache. And fundamentally, this was not just a headache. Uncontrolled diabetes, fluctuations in blood sugar, they can cause all sorts of different symptoms for all sorts of different people, because we're all individuals. We all present differently. One of our endocrinology experts testified that patients don't read the medical textbooks. You, as the doctor, are responsible to ferret out what's wrong with the patient when you evaluate them. And I think that stood out to the jury pretty well.
Yeah, and with so many people with undiagnosed diabetes in this state, in this country, you would just think, especially if this was a larger man, but with anybody, but especially with the larger person, that would be something that they would immediately test for. So what are you hoping comes from this case? I mean, again, I think it goes well beyond just this case.
Oh, it really does. Well, the first and foremost hope for this case is that John Rinke and his family can live as much of a life as possible. John is mentally in there. He's aware of his surroundings. And so the first priority always for us is making sure that our client is as well taken care of as possible. Secondly, there's over 40 million diabetics in the United States. That's 12% of the population. 20% of those people are undiagnosed. And 25% of life-threatening diabetic emergencies that are present in hospitals across the country are the first time a patient gets diagnosed with diabetes. And these things happen every day. And what do I hope? And I hope that screening for diabetes becomes a mantra in emergency rooms across the country, so that outcomes like this can be avoided, because it's a simple test and it can be done with a finger stick, and it can be done with a simple blood test that is drawn every day in every emergency room across the country. It's called a basic metabolic panel. In this case, it was ordered and then actually canceled 30 seconds later by the physician. And that was another thing that stood out to the jury. And awareness of diabetes in this country needs to be higher to keep our population safe when they go to the doctor, when they go to the emergency room. That is something that we advocate for on a daily basis for our clients.
Oh my goodness. Just to think that he's 47.
He's 50 now.
50 now. And life is changed forever, just like that, for something that could have come from a finger prick. Is pretty wild. Thank you so much for advocating on his behalf and for coming on the show to tell us a little bit more about this case and to ultimately raise awareness for all.
Right. Then that is our goal, is to raise awareness, because diabetes is a public health emergency. It's an epidemic in this country. And it was interesting that one of our experts, our endocrinologist, testified and told the jury that the average time span for a diabetic before they get diagnosed is 5 years. That is too long for anybody, because it's a treatable disease, and there's medications out there that manage these people and manage this disease and prevent these types of complications. And so I hope that does raise the awareness of everybody, patients and physicians included.
Yeah, hope so. Thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Anita. My pleasure.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
It's 1:50, everyone, and it is. I mean, so many people affected by this. I've done a lot with the American Diabetes Association, and they're work here in this area, and there's so many people who are undiagnosed right now that don't even know that they have diabetes or the markers there. So not only does this case raise awareness about one man's case, but it also should spur all of us to want to get more information about what the likelihood is that our numbers could suggest that we need more attention to what's going on with our own health as well, to be our best own advocate for our own lives as well. Let's take a quick break, 2 minutes, and we'll be right back. Okay, welcome back, everyone. Certainly appreciate you staying with us here, and we're gearing up for our 2 o'clock hour right now. We're kind of looking over some of the things that are trending at the moment on our website. We know that golf is trending. Obviously, that's because of the Masters. We've already started to see some of the, the introductory types of ceremonial things going on, and the entertainment that they have added this year. One former football player that's been added to the lineup, I think maybe to make things a little bit more lively. And also we are looking at elections in Georgia that are trending as well. Obviously the seat for Marjorie Taylor Greene, we had one of our sister stations that joined us yesterday as they were in the midst of elections for that particular seat. And of course the Iran news, a lot of people waiting to find out whether this ceasefire will hold. One of the stories that is trending here locally has to do with a Cubs pitcher that's out. That happens to be trending at the moment as we are starting up the baseball season, and we're already starting to see, injuries can happen very quickly when the season starts up. But we've waited so long for baseball to come back, and already we're starting to see some movement there. And that isn't about injuries, that's otherwise. But we'll find out more about all of those stories. Those are just some of the things that are trending on our website. So you can find out more at fox32chicago.com. We have some information about each one of those stories right now. We are moving on with our conversations here on Chicago Live, though, for the 2 o'clock hour. This is what we're getting into in this hour, okay? We're going to talk about business, returning to Robbins or expanding in Robbins. Each day, it seems like over the last few days, we have kind of profiled a suburban area that's getting some boom, some buzz right now. And so Robbins will be where we check in with today as they have some new things that are coming there. We love to see it. Obviously, we want more businesses to thrive in the area, whether it's here in Chicago, downtown, or well beyond. We love to see some businesses starting to pop up and prosper. We're hoping that we get a press conference from NASA, as Friday will be the day that we're kind of looking at for, look at these images that we keep getting. Well, this one's a little bit digitally challenged, but we've been getting some tremendous images from the Artemis II crew, who's now gone beyond the realm of any other crew for a space mission before. And so now the mission is to get them back home from this test flight. Now we turn to how to get them back home for this splashdown that is expected to happen right outside of San Diego. And so we're hoping that we get a press conference from NASA on how things are going, give us an update on that, and then also the preparations that are underway for what will happen next. One of the cutest things I think I have seen thus far, I don't know if you all have seen this on the web, but there was a particular sandwich spread that the astronauts just so happened to have for their own purposes there, that ended up, kind of floating by in one of their live pictures. And people are saying that that Nutella got the best commercial that they could possibly ever get, with that bottle floating through as the astronauts were doing one of their live pressers. So that was pretty cool. We expect to get an update on Wisconsin. There is a city in Wisconsin that just voted on a data center referendum. Really interesting dynamics there that I think a lot more cities and states will probably look at, because it is a first, probably look at to try to form their own proposals and protocol for data centers moving forward. We'll get the details from an organization there as well. And that's really a bit of where we're going with our conversations. We're starting, though, talking about foot traffic. If we're going to talk about businesses thriving, a part of that has to do with foot traffic, and it is apparently returning to downtown. I have RJ Hatavi, who is the head of analytical research at Placer.ai, who is joining me now. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So first, just tell us about Placer.ai doing this research. Why did you all decide to do this research for downtown Chicago?
Sure. So Placer itself is a location-based analytics company powered by mobile data. In simpler terms, that means for any physical place in the United States, with obvious restrictions, we can get foot traffic data. The way it works is we partner with several dozen mobile app companies, and through those app partnerships, we get location data on a panel of about 30 million devices. Importantly, all personal information is stripped away before we even receive it. We don't know if it's an individual's phone. We just know a phone has gone into a shady shape that effectively we've drawn around on a map. From that 30 million device sample, we then extrapolate using the latest in AI and machine learning and come up with a full estimate of that location. This obviously has applications for commercial real estate, retail, restaurants, but I think what we're finding with our data is it's a good barometer of kind of how much economic activity is coming back into the downtown area. Obviously, a lot of major urban areas have changed, and we've seen a lot of shifts in consumer and employment behavior coming out of the pandemic. So using our foot traffic data to look at an index of several 50 or 60 office buildings in given markets, we can get a pretty good sense for how much recovery we're seeing for return to office, and how many people are coming back in to work in urban areas. Obviously a lot of commercial real estate operators use us to look at their particular properties or other properties in an area too. So that's just kind of a little bit of the overview of Placer and how we work with our data.
Interesting. Now, doing the research on Chicago, did you compare it to, say, LA or New York, other large cities that have had to do their own turnaround since the pandemic?
So what we do is every month we take a look at a sample of office buildings across, I think, 15 different major urban markets, Chicago being one of them, but obviously we do look at a lot of the other major markets, New York, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Dallas, you name it. We've got a pretty good feel for it. And we've been tracking this since the pandemic. Our data goes back as far as 2018. And what we found is that still Chicago's towards the bottom end of the markets we look at in terms of where we see office foot traffic compared to 2019. We're still about 44% below where we were in 2019. But I think the takeaway is on a year-over-year basis, we actually saw visits to Chicago office buildings up about 5% last year, which was slightly above average for the rest of the U.S. I think there's a lot of reasons for that. We're starting to see more return to office mandates, more 4 and 5 day in the office type mandates from a lot of the employers in the area. But we're also starting to see some signs of revitalization. We've seen a lot of office buildings change hands the last 6 months in particular. And with that, there's been a lot of changes. A lot of these buildings are being refurbished. A lot of them are adding new amenities and making them more attractive, particularly to younger workers. And generally what we've seen is that those buildings that do put in more amenities, and that might be a refurbished lobby, that might be a workout area, that might be something else, they generally do see higher visits. That attracts new employers, which in turn attracts more employees to these buildings too. So I think it's exciting, especially Chicago has been a laggard on that, but the year-over-year gains I think are promising.
And so it kind of suggests, all right, we're headed in the right direction, but just slower than expected.
Yeah, I think that's the right way to think about it. We may be a little bit slower, and partially, we've seen a lot of change in the makeup of Chicago as a whole. We've seen a lot of migration out of the city over the last couple of years, at least according to our migration data. But I think in the year-over-year basis, I think we are starting to trend in the right direction. Importantly too, some of the buildings that we've seen, or at least in our pool, have been converted away from employee to office. Or employee to residential. They've older office buildings that are being converted into residential. We've stripped that out of our matrix as well. But I think that's interesting too, is that some of these the reasons why are some of the buildings are being redeveloped, and I think that could potentially be another way to kind of revitalize the downtown area. But I do think the year-over-year trends are positive. I think that is the key takeaway here, is that even though we've been a little bit slower than some of the other markets, Chicago is starting to bounce back.
Mm-hmm. And when you say migration, do you all track, where are people moving? We have a conversation later on in this hour planned with Robbins. We talked with another South suburban area yesterday that was doing some economic development. Where are people moving?
Yeah, it's interesting. We've seen, generally speaking, since the pandemic, a movement towards southern markets. So your Sunbelt area, so your Phoenix, your major markets in the Texas market, the Texas area. You've got Central Florida, you got Carolinas. Those have been where we've seen most of the population growth the last couple of years. But on a year-over-year basis, we are starting to see markets like New York and Chicago and San Francisco bounce back. I do think some of the new employment opportunities that are opening up in these areas, a lot of it is tech focused. focus and some of it AI focus is helping to bring people back. So I think we are starting to see signs of revitalization. The number of employers, the number of employees, the number of residents coming back. So we have seen that. In addition to where people are moving, in addition to the southern markets, we've seen a migration away from urban to more suburban and rural. Although again, on a year-over-year basis, we're starting to see some of those major urban markets start to claw back some of the residents that may have lost the last couple of years as well.
And among the major cities, who has had the strongest growth?
Out of the major cities, I would say the Texas markets have generally seen the strongest growth in terms of population. Dallas in particular has been one of the strongest, almost 300,000 in population growth the last couple of years. Phoenix has been another market that's seen exceptional growth. Orlando, Atlanta have also seen some pretty strong growth as well. So on an absolute basis, those markets have done very well. On a percentage basis, I would say the Carolinas have seen a lot of growth. And then kind of the upper Rocky Mountain territory. So a state like Idaho has actually seen quite a bit of growth as well. So those are the markets that have seen a lot of growth the last couple of years. And markets like the Carolinas and Idaho have seen some strong year-over-year growth as well.
What do you think's driving those numbers up so much?
I think partially just, we do have just change of climate. We do have what appears to be a lot of people moving from the Northeast and the Midwest to the Carolinas. I think that's been a big part of it. Just, people, as we have seen a lot more people, a lot more employers open to remote work, I think that's given a lot of opportunities for people to move just for, climate reasons above all. But, looking at our data too, we have, there's any number of reasons why there might be a move. There may be employment opportunities in those regions. It may be a lifestyle choice. There could be a lot of different reasons for why that, but I would say for those markets in particular, usually it comes down to climate and employment opportunities are usually the two major motivating factors for the migration.
Mm-hmm. We would also wonder if the tax incentives would be different, especially for a North Carolina or a Texas.
Yeah, it could be a factor as well.
Mm-hmm. What were some other things that you all really wanted to key in doing this research?
It's interesting kind of keeping tabs on this because a lot of our customers, again, are commercial real estate customers, and just being able to understand the different trends in different markets can help them make an investment decision. What are the markets that are best to make purchases in? Maybe there's where some of the real estate prices have come down because there has been less employees coming into the office, but maybe there's an opportunity to renovate these buildings, potentially maximize return on that. So I think that's going to be an interesting thing to watch is this, the revitalization. I don't think we're probably getting back to fully where we were in 2019 in terms of the number of employees going in the office. But I do think as we continue to see more 4 and 5 day workday mandates, more employers bringing people back to the office for collaboration and other reasons, I do think there's a big opportunity for some of these real estate development companies to come in, maybe buy a property at a discount from where it's historically been priced and renovate it and potentially turn a strong return. We're already seeing some success stories in the Chicago market, and I think that's going to be one of the exciting things as we continue to see hopefully the revitalization of the Chicago downtown market.
Mm-hmm. And we're all hoping that there is a revitalization of the Chicago downtown market for sure. What were some of the other trends that you saw for our area?
For our area in particular, it's been interesting to watch. I mean, we can get pretty granular with the data down to the zip code level. We've seen movement in terms of migration. I mean, we've seen that the West Loop has been a popular area where downtown population maybe moved out, but the West Loop continues to remain a hot area for migration, as well as new employers as well. We've seen a lot of investment in that area as well. I think that's been exciting to watch and see the new employers there, some of the office buildings with new amenities, and the excitement that can create. In terms of just even a workplace culture too, I think that's been one of the things that's been most exciting. Is with some of these revitalizations, a lot of times that voluntarily will bring employees into the office, who want to take advantage of these amenities. So I think that's been an exciting thing to see. Where the West Loop has come over the last couple of years too. I think that's been a real exciting. River North is an area too. We've seen some new employers move there as well. So interesting, kind of looking at the local pockets just outside of the loop as well, in terms of what we've seen in terms of employee growth as well.
Some people call the West Loop the best loop. Not sure, but your data would suggest that a lot of people are at least interested in finding out.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Thank you so much for your time. Is there anything else that that you all are saying we probably need to look into right now?
No, I think there are a lot of things. And obviously, we talked a lot about the office market at this point and kind of that perspective from downtown. But obviously, we do a lot of work with retailers and restaurants too. And I think that is really interesting to watch too. As we continue to see the makeup of that downtown market change, that's going to require a change in what kind of other consumer businesses are there as well. That trade area has completely shifted. It's moved away from kind of your older employee audience, so younger audience, especially some of these office buildings bring in more amenities. And I think that's given a lot of consumer companies an opportunity to maybe come in and reevaluate the downtown market too. So I'd expect in the next several years a lot of new retail shops, a lot of new restaurant brands to potentially either relook or potentially enter the Chicago market for the first time. I think that could be really exciting potentially as we start to see new employers and new employees come into the market.
Well, there's a lot of space for them.
Yeah, there is.
That is true. There's a lot of space for them. And obviously, we've had a lot of conversations about what these vacant spaces downtown have then meant for people who live well beyond the parameters of downtown lately.
Yep, exactly.
Mm-hmm. So I'm sure everyone is hoping that these empty buildings are filled very fast. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, take care, and let us know when you have your next study out.
Will do.
Okay. All right, everyone. It's just about 2:12, and again, we do love to see businesses coming in, whether it is downtown or whether it's in the suburbs. It's a beautiful thing for us to be able to report and to see. Hope that they stay around a while. To see businesses leaving is never a good feeling, and for a while, it felt like we were seeing more businesses leave than coming this way. So it's a great thing to be able to hear from Placer.ai that, well, okay, there's a little bit more foot traffic. And as you were hearing there from him, that maybe it's taken us a while, but maybe that resurgence is starting. The energy is there. People are coming back, and business hopefully will be booming yet again. All right, let's take a 2-minute break. We'll be back with our next conversation. All right, welcome back, everyone. It's 2:15 right now, and before we get to our next guest, we did have a camera at a press conference that so many people have invested in terms of this horse rescue that happened over the weekend. Let's listen to this for just a bit.
Mavis box alarm system for Swiftwater technicians. What we were looking for at that point was just bodies. We needed people that were familiar with Swiftwater and the type of operation we were going to do. All of the equipment was provided by the Wisconsin Large Animal Rescue Group, but we wanted those trained individuals there just to kind of help coordinate and make sure that we were doing things correctly, and we had enough help there once we got the animal to the other side that we were able to move them to where they needed to be. Once that was done, that group was really on scene only for about an hour. And we were able to get the animal moved over and successfully up to the trailer into the hospital.
How many people or crews would you say were involved in trying to sort it out?
At its peak, there was probably about 45 people.
What does it say about this community and the surrounding communities and how they view animals, in particular the horses, that they deploy those kind of resources to save kind of an elderly horse?
I feel like in a rural community, we understand the value of the animals, whether, it's a farm animal for production, that's important to that farmer or a horse, it's important to that owner. I mean, I'm an animal owner, I have dogs, and, they're important to me, so I can understand the value to them.
The rising floodwaters and just trying to figure out what the situation was like, how is that first response look like when you guys are trying to get out there and basically evaluate?
So the initial response, it's kind of a slow response at first. It's really about evaluating, what other resources we're going to need initially. And then once we get that determination, okay, this is a rescue, not a recovery, then we start to move a lot faster. In this instance, because it was so complex, being that it was a horse, it was obviously much longer. We weren't going to push the issue. The horse was stable. He was in a good spot. So it was really trying to build up that energy and make sure that animal was healthy enough to move on.
How far the horse was from shore and how deep the water was?
So the horse from where the standing water was to where the horse was at was probably about 600 to 800 feet. In regards to how the creek kind of moved through is, he was really only about, I would say, maybe 50 feet, 60 feet, but he went from standing in belly deep water to probably 15 to 16 foot of water. So, and the way the banks are with this particular piece of water is where he was at and the way it would bend. In a normal setting, that water is only about 3 feet deep, but the banks are 8 foot high to 10 foot high. So when you take the fact that the water was flowing over top of that bank, that's where we get the 15 foot deeper water. So it was a challenge once we got the horse to the other side, having them have the ability to step up and get up on their feet. So we really had to drag him over that bank and then get him to an area where it was flat to where he could stand up.
How much fight did he show as he tried to...
He was extremely docile. Extremely docile. He never fought us.
Like dead weight versus was he trying to assist when he could?
When he could, he would assist. And once we got him into the water to move him across, he assisted a little bit, but kind of that water was so cold it kind of shocked his system again. But then when we got him to the other side and back up to the trailer, the vet was able to give him some more medication, get him back up on his feet, and he was on his feet in the trailer.
How low his temperature got or how cold the water was?
The water was about 43 degrees. His temperature, I would have to confirm with the vet. I think his initial temperature was maybe around 97, if I remember correctly.
And how swift was that water?
I was extremely surprised how fast that water was moving. I couldn't tell you miles per hour or anything like that, but there was a lot of water moving quick.
Oh, just hearing a few of the details behind that harrowing rescue. It was our top web trender over the weekend, as so many people saw a picture of this horse that at the moment was stranded out in Coon Creek. And this was the Marengo Fire and Rescue District holding this press conference to update all of us whose hearts were breaking for this poor horse that was out there, and these wonderful first responders who risked their lives, quite honestly, to save this horse's life. He talked about how complex of an operation this was. The water got to 15 to 16 feet deep. It was rising very quickly, and it was very cold as well. Took 45 people to rescue this horse that they said was extremely docile, and the vet was able to give it meds, get it back on its feet. Just a beautiful story that, again, so many people followed. Our hearts were all, like, oh, please get this horse. But it did require people to put their lives at risk, and so we're very grateful to them as well today, and great to hear some of the details behind that. One of the things that he mentioned there was that there was a crew from Wisconsin that even participated in that rescue, and that's actually where we're going with our next conversation here as we look into data centers and so many communities throughout our state, or even and well beyond, trying to decide what to do with these major companies that want to come in with data centers. And on the one hand, it could mean some positive things. On the other hand, there could be quite a few drawbacks with these data centers as well. And so each community has to make the decision. For one community in Wisconsin, they just passed the nation's first anti-data center referendum. And that's where we bring in Michael Beester with Great Lakes Neighbors United. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, can you hear me all right?
I can hear you just fine. Tell me a little bit about your group first and foremost, and how you all have gotten involved in this data center fight.
So this project started in Port Washington, Wisconsin in early 2025. It's kind of moved through a lot of steps pretty quickly. And the community showed up to meetings and tried to express concerns about how, what a $15 billion project would look like in a community of less than 13,000 people. And we weren't successful in stalling or shaping the project too much. So, late last year, I'd say September, October, a lot more people started going to meetings. There was, we had a kind of a renewed interest in coming and, having an impact on the project. So we circulated a petition pursuant to Wisconsin's direct legislation statute, which is Ordinance 9.20 here in the state. Basically, if you get it turned out to be about 1,000 signatures in our community. You can basically send a new ordinance to the Common Council to either approve or send to a referendum. We did that late last year, and yesterday was election day, and we passed. The citizens of Port Washington passed the ordinance about 2-1 last night.
And how did that feel after the work that you all had done?
It felt good because we just haven't been able to break through and get the we've got like state legislature. We've been trying to get their attention, get them to notice what's going on and pass some basic guardrails around hyperscale AI data center development. And it hasn't really gone anywhere. And the state legislature has sort of gone home for the session for the rest of the year, and we have nothing to protect our communities yet. And so, this is the first legal action we've been able to pass that really shows that we want to see more action around protecting our communities. So it feels good to have shown that we're organizing and that we want to be taken seriously now.
Yeah, when you say protecting your community, obviously these companies who are advocating on behalf of bringing data centers to different communities talk about added jobs or the pros that could come to the community as a result of them building these data centers. But when you say protecting the community, what do you feel that you all are protecting the community from?
Yeah, that's a good question. Certainly, I don't want to minimize the benefits to the community. There are certainly 4,000 or 5,000 construction jobs for 5 or 6 years. I mean, that can have a huge impact on small businesses and their ability to grow their businesses and hire people. And This particular project does bring some infrastructure north of the interstate, where it's a kind of an area that they wanted to develop for many years, but the cost of bringing in that infrastructure was too high, and we found kind of a company that's willing to come in and help with that. So yeah, there are benefits. I don't want to minimize those, but it has to be done responsibly with protections for people. And in this case, like the first one that comes to mind is energy rates. We've been told, if you look at what's happened in Virginia and Ohio and some of these other areas where they've built a lot of AI data centers, their energy rates have increased significantly. And We Energies, who's the local provider here, is continue to tell us over and over again that this won't affect our energy rates and so forth. But just like last week, they announced that they will be requesting a 9.2% energy rate increase from the Public Service Commission in the state here, which is significantly more than inflation. So, and they readily admit that part of that is to fund new natural gas generation to meet the basically the exploding demand in the state for things like data centers. So energy rates is one that comes to mind. Another would be our natural resources. In this case, they're buying water from the city of Port Washington, so I don't have too much of a concern there. But there are concerns about like backup diesel generators and making sure that the air is protected, and we don't want to have generators running and polluting the air all day and things like that. And then there's property tax concerns too. So the most concerning thing for me was the tax increment district. The way we did this with it amounts to about $500 million in tax abatement over the next 20 years. And so basically people are being told this will benefit your property tax bill, but not for roughly 20 years. So a child that's born today won't see that until after they graduate high school. So. That's the most concerning piece of it to me.
Mm-hmm. And now that you all have had a vote on it, voted it down essentially there in your community, is that all said and done? Or do you anticipate that there could be like legal challenges to come?
Well, to be clear, this referendum only applies to future tax increment districts. Mm-hmm. This won't affect the Vantage project that's happening here now. It just says basically in the future, if you were to do something like this, the residents who live here want to be able to affect that. Now, with this particular referendum, there were some local economic development groups and the Chamber of Commerce in Milwaukee that tried to shut it down and get an injunction to stop it from even being on the ballot. They weren't successful in doing that. The local judge said, no, you got to, this is First Amendment free speech to be able to vote. So got it on the ballot, and they're kind of signaling that they're going to try to look for some more legal challenges on it. So, but pursuant to the state constitution, it is actually an ordinance now.
Okay, and then essentially, how do you feel? How do you measure this possibly being used as a blueprint for other communities throughout the country now?
Yeah, I can't speak too much to other states. I only know about, like the direct legislation ordinance here in Wisconsin. I think there are other states that have similar tools where you can get a certain number of signatures. And, it's kind of an obscure law that, from what I can tell, it's only been used like one other time recently in the state. I think it was a development project about an hour from here where they use this. But I think sometimes people forget that they do have some of these other tools that that are kind of old and maybe not used as much. But the people just, if there's one takeaway, is that people just really got to get involved in their local government. They got to attend meetings. They got to ask questions, take every opportunity they can to try to understand what's going on. And so certainly our group is communicating with other communities in the state and trying to help them understand what options are available to them. And again, it's not necessarily no development. I mean, every community needs development to grow, but it has to be responsible. And so we're trying to help other communities learn what tools are available to them in the state, and then we'll kind of see where if it goes more out to the Midwest or maybe even to other states later. But right now we're still kind of focused on the local area here.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining me to tell me a little bit about what you all were able to do there for the future of your community and what could be the future of many other communities if they are looking at what you all did. There are several other communities in your state, and many other states throughout the country that are all trying to make their decisions now. A few that have gotten this on, referendums on the ballot. So we'll see what voters do.
Yeah, certainly. It's important for people to exercise their First Amendment right and be part of the process.
Thank you for being here on the show. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right. Everyone, it's 2:31. We're going to take a 2-minute break, and then I will let you know about some of the things that we're watching in our later newscast today. And we'll check in on a couple of other things as well as we await a press conference from NASA at any point in time. Okay, welcome back, everyone. Just about 2:35 right now, and Vice President J.D. Vance is giving an update on the war in Iran. Let's listen into this.
What we said is that the ceasefire would be focused on Iran, and the ceasefire would be focused on America's allies, both Israel and the Gulf Arab states. That said, the Israelis, as I understand it, again, I'm supposed to get a fuller report when I get on the plane, have actually offered to be, frankly, to check themselves a little bit in Lebanon because they want to make sure that our negotiation is successful. That's not because that is part of the ceasefire. I think that's the Israelis trying to set us up for success, and we'll, of course, see how that unfolds in the next few days. But look, if Iran wants to let this negotiation fall apart in a conflict where they were getting hammered over Lebanon, which has nothing to do with them and which the United States never once said was part of the ceasefire. That's ultimately their choice. We think that would be dumb, but that's their choice.
Mr. Vice President, you're continuing to walk the states with some news. Do you have an expectation of when that strait is going to be open?
Well, we've already seen an increase in traffic today. Hopefully we'll see an increase in traffic tomorrow. We actually think that we are seeing signs that the straits are starting to reopen. I think you guys have probably seen oil prices have come down, so I think the oil markets, the gas markets are seeing the same thing. But the president's been very, very clear. The deal is a ceasefire, a negotiation. That's what we give. And what they give is the straits are going to be reopened. If we don't see that happening, the president is not going to abide by our terms if the Iranians are not abiding by their terms.
Mr. Vice President, ChicagoLIVE said you played a key role in these talks. Could you help understand some details about that role? And do you think your well-known opposition to foreign wars generally was a factor that made you a key player in this?
Well, I appreciate Carolyn saying that. I mean, you know, my key role was I sat on the phone a lot. I answered a lot of phone calls. I made a lot of phone calls. And again, I'm happy about where we are. I think the president has struck a good deal for the American people, but fundamentally, the Iranians have got to take the next step, or the president has a lot of options to go back to the war.
Do you know if Iranians requested that you join the talks?
I don't know that. I would be surprised if that was true. But, you know, I wanted to be involved because I thought I could make a difference. And obviously, I think the people really on the ground doing the day-to-day negotiating have been Steve and Jared. They've done a great job. But we're going to keep on working this as a team, as we always have. You know, Pete's been very helpful with the various military elements of this. Marco's obviously been extremely involved. We work as a team. We work effectively. And, you know, yeah, I've been on the phone a lot the past couple of days, but we're glad to be where we are.
Mr. Vice President, how is the United States accomplishing its stated objective of ensuring Iran doesn't have a nuclear weapon ever if they still have highly enriched uranium? And what's the plan to get the uranium?
Well, look, I mean, this is one of the things that's going to be one of the main subjects of negotiation is that we want Iran to not be able to make a nuclear weapon. We want the nuclear fuel, which is something the president has made very clear. And there, again, the way to think about this is the United States has certain demands and certain things that we want. The Iranians have things they can get out of the negotiation. The more that they're willing to give us, I think the more they're going to get things out of this negotiation. The president's talked about sanctions relief. The president's talked about economic partnerships and things like that. That's not going to happen unless the Iranians make a firm commitment to stop anything close to the development of a nuclear weapon. And frankly, the president has all the cards here. We've got a lot of leverage. We've got a lot of things that we can do. But right now, I think we're in a good spot.
Is the white Iranian civilization off the map still on the table? Is it fair to keep 90 million Iranians under that threat for the actions of their leaders?
Well, look, the leadership is really to blame for the condition of the country in Iran. The president of the United States has made very clear that the United States has a lot of leverage here. We have economic leverage. We've got military leverage. What he's trying to do is make sure the American people are safe and strike a deal that's good for the American people. I encourage the Iranians to come to the table seriously. We've seen some signs that they're going to do that. We've seen some signs of bravado. Fundamentally, we're in a good spot. They're reopening the straits. We have a ceasefire. And frankly, if they break their end of the bargain, then they're going to see some serious consequences.
Wiping them off the map is different than an economic leverage or military leverage. Why is that kind of language useful in this kind of scenario?
Well, again, the President of the United States is saying that unless the Iranians do the right thing, he is going to have some serious consequences for the regime. We obviously don't want the people of Iran to suffer, but we have a lot of leverage the President of the United States could use, and it's why I think it's so important for the Iranians to be negotiators in good faith.
Okay, was the last couple of days with the Free Press story saying that senior Pentagon officials in January, including Rich Colby, brought Cardinal Pierre into the Pentagon.
Brought who?
Cardinal Christophe Pierre
into
the Pentagon.
I haven't seen this story, unfortunately.
And essentially the reporting by the Free Press is that they told him that the American military has a lot of might and they can do whatever they want, and the church should get on its side. Does that message sound correct to you? Is that something you would sign off on?
So one, I with no disrespect to the Cardinal, I don't know who Cardinal Christophe Pierre is.
He's the ambassador to the Holy See in the U.S.
Oh, okay. I've met him before. Sorry, I just didn't remember the name. I've never seen this reporting. I'd like to actually talk to Cardinal Christophe Pierre and frankly to our people to figure out what actually happened. I think it's always a bad idea to offer an opinion on stories that are unconfirmed and uncorroborated, so I'm not going to do that.
Mr. Gaza, on the question of Iran's enrichment, do you see a scenario in which the administration may be willing to agree to allow Iran to continue enriching uranium for civilian nuclear purposes?
Well, look, what the president has said is that we don't want Iran to have the capacity to build a nuclear weapon. The president's also said that we don't want Iran enriching towards a nuclear weapon, and we want Iran to give up the nuclear fuel. Those are going to be our demands during the negotiation, and again, we're going to see what the Iranians are willing to give up. If they make a good faith effort to actually give us the things that we need to have a successful negotiation for the security of the American people, I think there's a lot on the other end. If they don't give us what we need, then I think it's going to be bad, but I'm optimistic that the Iranians are going to be smart, that they're going to negotiate in good faith.
And your negotiating partner in Iran, and Kevin sort of asked about this already, but he essentially is saying that they're distrustful of the U.S. for, he tweeted out that 3 of the 10 points in the ceasefire framework cover the distrustful of the U.S. What do you make of him tweeting that out before negotiation?
So I thought it was interesting, actually, because I did see that tweet from ChicagoLIVE actually just a couple of minutes ago. And let me say a few things. First of all, he said that there are a few points of disagreement before the negotiation. Well, that must mean that there's a lot of points of agreement, because there's a 15-point plan floating around, there's a 10-point plan floating around. If he's frustrated about 3 issues, that actually means that there's a lot of agreement. That's point number 1. Point number 2, to respond to each of those issues, and I read it very closely, let me just say this. I actually wonder how good he is at understanding English, because there are things that he said that frankly didn't make sense in the context of the negotiations that we've had. But to address the 3 points, first of all, he talked about an attack that had allegedly happened on Iran and how that was a violation of the ceasefire. Ceasefires are always messy. An hour after the president announced the ceasefire, the Iranians launched a bunch of missiles. Then the Israelis responded. Then some of the Gulf Arab states responded. This is the nature of a ceasefire. No ceasefire ever goes without a little bit of choppiness. What we have been very clear about is that we want to stop the bombing. We want our allies to stop the bombing, and we want the Iranians to do the same thing. We're seeing evidence that things are going in the right direction, but it's going to take a little time. The second thing ChicagoLIVE said, which again I found fascinating, is he said, we refuse to give up the right to enrichment. And I thought to myself, you know what? My wife has the right to skydive, but she doesn't jump out of an airplane, because she and I have an agreement that she's not going to do that, because I don't want my wife jumping out of an airplane. We don't really concern ourselves with what they claim they have the right to do. We concern ourselves with what they actually do, and I think the president's been very clear on the enrichment question. Our position on that has not changed. I think the third thing that he said was Lebanon. Okay, and again, I actually think that is a reasonable misunderstanding, but neither us nor the Israelis said that that was going to be part of the ceasefire. Again, we're working with people to try to get through some of these things, but it's really fundamentally, we're on the right track. We got a lot more to do. We got a lot more that the Iranians are going to have to accept as part of this negotiation, but I think we've got a strong hand and we're going to play it well.
Do you have
Thank
any
you all.
assurance
Have a safe trip back.
that the talks won't happen?
Vice President J.D. Vance there, stopping for a moment to take some questions from reporters primarily about the war in Iran. And Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, earlier today saying he was very involved in the ceasefire conversations. He says that Lebanon has really become a sticking point in all of this. Israel has continued to attack Lebanon, and Iran officials are saying that there can't be a ceasefire if Israel is still attacking Lebanon. But of course, that's not a part. And the Trump administration is saying that's not a part of the ceasefire between the U.S. and Iran. What Israel does with Lebanon, that Lebanon is not a part of the equation here. And so that's become a sticking point today, a snag, if you will, we were hearing from one of our experts a little earlier on. There's also been this great conversation about what is going on with the Strait of Hormuz. So he spoke on that a bit. He says that there's an increase in traffic through the Strait of Hormuz, although he admitted he's getting ready to get a full briefing once he gets on the plane. But he says that there appears to be an increase in traffic through the Strait of Hormuz, and that would be the result of the ceasefire and negotiations here. But of course, Caroline Leavitt kind of echoed that today, but she was refuting claims from the Iranian state media that says they've closed the Strait of Hormuz this morning. That's coming from at least the Iranian state media. They said they have closed the Strait of Hormuz again. And so Caroline Leavitt said those claims are false. She reiterated President Trump's demand that the trade route has to be reopened immediately, quickly, and safely there. So there's still a bit of a conversation in terms of what is actually happening with the Strait of Hormuz. Is it open? Is there increased traffic? Is it closed? And it really depends on who you're hearing from as to what the state of the strait is at the moment. Also, he says that Iranians have to take the next step here, and that the president holds all the cards at the moment, but that he wanted to be involved. Vice President J.D. Vance, he wanted to be involved in the talks because he thought that he could be effective. He says that they're on the right track, still have a lot of ways to go here, and what happens from here and what that sets in terms of the path forward. We do know, this came out today, that Vice President Vance will be leading in-person peace talks in Pakistan this weekend, as the United States is still, trying to kind of fortify what a ceasefire will look like. We know that he'll be accompanied by U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff and President Donald Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, who you heard Vice President J.D. Vance mention there. So they are going to be in Islamabad this weekend, continuing to talk about what is going on in Iran and how to walk forward with everyone involved feeling as though they got something out of this deal. It is 2:47. We're gearing up for our next conversation here shortly. Want to let you know about a few other things that we are watching right now in our newsroom. We know that more than 300 employees of Illinois State University are on strike. They had some contract negotiations. Speaking of negotiations, their contract negotiations apparently broke down, and so they are on strike right now. They did meet with the school yesterday, but the union is saying that they just didn't make any head ground there, especially when it comes to dining, janitorial, and grounds crews. So they are now on strike. The union says that their latest offer just didn't include retroactive pay for work done since the last contract expired. So that's one of the things that they are watching downstairs. Also, we know when it comes to universities, right around this time yesterday, we were speaking about the University of Wisconsin. We found out during our 2 o'clock hour yesterday that the president of the University of Wisconsin Systems, that the board was going in to discuss his future, and we do have word now that that board did ultimately vote unanimously to fire the systems president. Of course, there were rumors of that last week. He caught wind of those rumors. He refused to quit, and so they have now, the board has now unanimously decided to fire him, and it was their call ultimately. So the Republican lawmakers in the state furious and threatening to fire the regents about this. So that's still an ongoing story, but that's where we are with it right now. And then also for our travelers out there, Delta Airlines has decided that they are going to be raising checked bag fees. Haven't we heard that from pretty much everyone? Well, Delta Airlines now joining their ranks, increasing fees by $10, citing increased fuel costs. Increased fuel costs that are hitting everyone. So your first check bag will now cost $45 with Delta Airlines. Just a few of the things that we are watching at the moment. We are going to take a quick 2-minute break, and we'll be right back with our next conversation. Welcome back, everyone. 2:52 right now. Earlier in the hour, we were talking with, an analytical group that looks at foot traffic in major cities. And ironically enough, they found that the foot traffic in downtown Chicago is actually up. It is rising. And they also talked about migration to the suburbs, that is rising as well. So let's go ahead and bring in the mayor of Robbins, who has proclaimed that Robbins is officially open for business. Darren Bryant, great to have you here on the show.
Hey, glad to be here, and thanks for having me.
Absolutely, and I'm so glad that we're able to talk about growth happening in your area.
Mm-hmm. And not just growth, but sustainable and affordable growth, right? So that's the problem that we're facing. I was listening to you earlier. We got so much going on in the world, which that comes the inflation side of things, which Robbins is here to combat and make sure that the deal is always right.
All right. Now, you tell me about some of the deals that you've brokered lately, because I'm seeing several different things that are on the way there.
Oh, yeah. So first of all, I, as the mayor, control the real estate with the Board of Trustees, and we have over 1,000 vacant parcels here in the village of Robbins in which we can control that real estate transaction, right? So having a piece of property is 50% or a little bit more than 50% of getting the deal done. If you got site control, then you're that much closer to getting the deal. So we just closed on a 50 home development. We got new residential development going on in the village of Robbins right now. Price point is still affordable around that $300,000 mark. And we got some cheaper options as well, too, around the $210,000 mark. And those prices in today's market is unbeatable. You know, we're talking about over 1,100, 1,200 square feet, and some of them got even over 2,000 square feet for the 300 and above. So we're on our way to building affordable housing. We're on our way for recreational sustainability, which we just completed a $2 million turf football field for our youth football team. That's in conjunction to a $30 million recreational stormwater park that we just completed with the help of MWRD.
Wow. Congratulations on it all, first and foremost. What does that fundamentally do to the village when you have these types of things coming and expanding and building?
Right. So it's like an octopus. We got so many arms going at one time. With residential development, you need recreational development, you need commercial development, you need the amenities that a resident will want to enter into a thriving community. But it raises the tax base, right? It raises our tax base in which we now can offer better services to our new residents. It also increases home values, right? When you got new development coming into your town, your property value raises as well too. Robbins for many years has had a negative stigma, but I'm on this podcast today to tell you that the narrative has changed, and we got some strong leadership in place, and the politics is right as well too.
Why do you think it had a stigma for so long?
It's a combination of things. You know, Robbins it's an historic African American community, which was founded in 1917. It probably was some combination of systemic racism and a combination of bad leadership, right? And a combination of just not knowing. So when you put those three together, then you get the results we have today. So when you boxed out the game, you don't know the game, which leads to unproductivity.
There are many levels to that, for sure, and then it becomes generational. So you were breaking some of that and starting anew with several things. The first restaurant in nearly 5 decades came in the latter part of 2025.
Yes, that is true. We got a Harold's Chicken, which came into Robbins last year, and it's doing pretty well. You know, I had some city folks come out to Robbins and say that the Robbins Harold's is better than some of the Harold's in the city, so you got to come out here and try that. That's on 13730 Clare Boulevard.
That is a high bar. Okay. All right. So let me ask you this. Did you get any pushback? And I asked the mayor that we had on yesterday from Mokina, and I asked him, like, it's wonderful. It feels, at least for us, wonderful to be able to report new things. But you were very transparent in talking about raising taxes as a result of it too. So did you get pushback at all? I mean, it seems from afar like growth is beautiful, but if you're the one paying the increased taxes, do your folks feel that this is a beautiful thing, that the growth, are they embracing the growth?
Right, right. So with the new development we just had, that concern came up. Robbins still ranks one of the lowest South suburban communities with its tax rate, right? So we're not even comparable to our neighbors in some areas. But with that being said, you got to also think about this. If you do not bring in new development, you're going to ultimately have to raise taxes, because if you don't increase that income and that money to combat inflation, well, who are you taxing then? You're taxing the people that's still in the community. So I look at it from a different standpoint as far as new development balances the load for everybody. Otherwise, the load will be carried by the same citizens, in which Robbins' tax collection hasn't been the greatest in the last couple decades.
So what more are you wanting to do?
So I'm glad you just asked that second phase to the first question. Also, what combat taxes is industrial development, and I want this to be a major bullet point. Robbins is open for a data center as well too. We got a large industrial site that's 16.5 acres. It used to be the old incinerator site, which it houses over 100 megawatts off grid, and it's also a 20-inch pipe, high pressure gas pipe feeding into the area as well. So this used to be a site before Cook County and the state pretty much closed pretty much all the incinerators in the state and went clean energy. This site has the capabilities of powering a large facility, and it's located right off the Cal Sag. And I know this is big because a lot of communities are closing the doors on data centers, but we look at it from a standpoint that if we can solve the problems, if we can address the environmental concerns, then there is no problems. We deal with solutions.
Well, you know what? My eyes kind of bugged out when you said it. I'll be honest, because we've already had one interview with a group in Wisconsin today that just, they battled it out. They lost the fight for a data center in their community, but feel like they've won the war because they got a referendum that says that from now on the community will have to come through the taxpayers for a vote if they should have another data center conversation in the future. But I'm probably 30 minutes or less away from a conversation with another environmental group here in the state of Illinois about data centers as well, and the fight that they've been putting up. So it is a very controversial issue, for sure.
Yeah, and once again, I would love to, we get deals done, meaning that we listen to problems, and for every problem there's an answer. And if you can't answer, then it don't get done. But when we sit back and we look at all the data center deals that's going on, and hear about the noise complaints, and hear about the uses of water, and looking at other things as far as proximity to schools and playgrounds and things of that nature, right? Robbins has a potential site that can potentially address all the concerns that was failures in other communities. And once again, we're always looking to see if there is a problem, how do we get through it? How do we solve it? Otherwise, the deal don't get done.
Well, for sure, what works in one community may not work in another, and vice versa. So thank you so much for coming on the show. And I'm sure we should be saying thank you for what you're doing there in Robbins. Loved, again, to see the growth, and hope that you have much more over time. Thank you.
Thank you. God bless you.
All right. Same to you. Take care. It's 3:01, everyone. We'll take a quick 2-minute break, and then we will set you up for where we're going in our final hour here on Chicago Live for the day. Welcome back, everyone. 3:03 right now. We're in our final hour here on Chicago Live for the day, and we're going to get an update before we turn you over to the 4 o'clock from our own Dawn Hasbrook. She'll kind of give us a preview of what is to come in the 4 o'clock hour. We're also going to bring up our meteorologist, our chief meteorologist, Emily Walls, and so we can talk a little bit about the weather that we have outside today. It is absolutely beautiful at the moment. The sun is shining. And even though we've been on the cooler side for the start of spring these last couple of days, things are going in the right direction in terms of the temperature outside, and hopefully we can keep that around. But typically when we start to see that change between the hot and the cold, usually it comes with some storms. We'll talk to her a little bit about what we can expect weather-wise soon. You heard me moments ago. If you were at the latter part of our 2 o'clock hour, I was speaking with the mayor of Robbins, and we got into a conversation at the very end of that, the latter portion of it, about data centers. He is a proponent, was very open about the fact, bring it, essentially, is what he's saying. They have the land, they want it in their area. But we have talked to in the 2 o'clock hour, and will in this 3 o'clock hour, right around 3:15, we're speaking with an environmental group that's down in Springfield lobbying against them. So there's two sides to this debate. Those who are saying we welcome it, and those who are citing plenty of concerns for any community that they should be considering. So we'll get into all of those things. I'll also let you know about some of the other headlines that we're monitoring at the moment. But we want to have a discussion now with someone from our Cook County State's Attorney's Office. There has been so much concern about crime on the CTA. I mean, essentially, crime on the CTA is nothing new, but there is renewed effort to cut down on the crime. And so we want to go ahead and bring in the Deputy Chief Assistant State's Attorney for Policy and External Affairs, Anastasia Harper, so that we can talk about the office's new CTA task force. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
We certainly appreciate you being here. Tell us about this task force.
The task force is designed to be a collaboration so that we can make sure that we're doing what we can to keep riders on the CTA safe.
And what was the conversation like when you say to keep them safe? What were you all seeing to say, we need to do something about this?
We're seeing what you just described. We're seeing an increase in crime on the CTA, and we are tasked with the effort to making sure that we are doing everything we can to make sure that riders are safe.
And can you talk about that from the larger standpoint of, I mean, obviously it has to be many different factors to cut down on this type of crime that we're seeing. I mean, the CTA is huge. It is a huge system. So there have to be a lot of different players at the table to have a corrective change.
You're right. And that's why we have engaged in a close collaboration with members of the Chicago Police Department as well as representatives from the CTA in order to build this task force. And we are engaged in active training of our lawyers who have volunteered to be part of this. We have more than 30 prosecutors and investigators who have volunteered to join this task force and take on that extra responsibility. So I do want to celebrate that tremendous showing of volunteerism.
Absolutely. And I hope that it's effective in the end, has a great impact on what we've been seeing, because it has been very concerning. Obviously, there are many things that make news, and there are quite a few others that don't make the news as well. So making everyone feel a little safer on the CTA is important. What does the training look like for those who have stepped forward?
The training is undergoing. We are underway, and in addition to learning about things like camera systems and data retrieval, these prosecutors are doing what I think is central to the success of any effort, and that is communication and collaboration. They are making contacts at the CTA, at the Chicago Police Department, so they know who to turn to when they might need some extra support, when they might have a question they don't know how to answer. And so they are forming these relationships in order to further our effort to keep people safe on the CTA.
I would like to ask you about the timing of it. I mentioned CTA crime is nothing new. The Trump administration has threatened to cut funds, but the CTA did come out with a new security plan. Why now for you all in forming this task force?
This is something that we've actually been engaged in for quite some time, and we are grateful that we are at the point where we are launching it and it is in effect, but it is an effort that we've been working at that's been a priority for State's Attorney Burke for quite some time now.
And with 36 assistant state's attorneys and investigators who have said yes, I would like to be a part of this, I will go. Is this a starting point, or is this kind of what you all had envisioned?
Well, I sort of thought it was what we had envisioned, but since we launched our task force, we've had additional people reach out to see if they can join our ranks. So I think it is just a starting point.
And then please tell me a little bit about the CTA crime pretrial release conditions protocol.
Sure. As you know, from day one, State's Attorney Burke has directed prosecutors to seek detention when individuals commit violent crime on the CTA. This is an extension of that. In the event that an individual is not detained, we are going to be asking judges to enter orders restricting that individual's access to the location where they committed their crime on the CTA.
One of the things that I think that really hits hard for a lot of people when we do report on some of the crimes that have happened, the higher profile crimes that have happened on the CTA are the list of times that those people involved, the suspects, have had prior interaction with law enforcement from things that happened on the CTA. Would this be kind of trying to get at the heart of that?
Sure, absolutely. People who are repeating crimes on the CTA, who are using the CTA to further their criminal activity, we're going to be taking a careful look at that and asking that those individuals have their ridership access restricted to those locations where they've been committing crimes. Obviously, it's up to the court to enter these orders, but our lawyers are going to be asking for them.
And just on a final note here, before I let you go, there will be folks who say that a part of why those folks have been on the CTA to possibly commit crime is that the CTA essentially has become like a home for them, that a lot of the homeless population ends up there because they don't have places to go. Have you all discussed that aspect of correcting some of the things that are happening as well?
Certainly, there's a lot of work to do in this area, and our internal CTA task force is one step in a broader effort on that regard.
Thank you so much for your time. We do appreciate it. I know that you have a very busy schedule today, so thank you for fitting us in.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Please take care.
You too.
All right, everyone, it's about 3:12 right now. We're going to take a quick 2-minute break, and then I will let you know where we're going from here. welcome back, everyone. It's just about 3:15, and we have our own Don Hasbrook checking in right now to let us know what's coming up on the 4 o'clock news. Hey, Don.
First of all, the weather's great now. Do you
It
agree?
is beautiful.
I just wondered. So Emily was telling me that it's going to be in the upper 60s, so that's the first thing I wanted to talk about. It's going to be great. But she did say that there are going to be some showers in store, and I know you're going to talk to her in a little bit, but I think everybody's out there just enjoying the weather. But a few things that I want to bring up. First, a story that's getting a lot of talk is an American woman who disappeared from her boat in the Bahamas. She's still missing. And there are a lot of questions about what happened to her. Apparently her daughter has talked about some things. Her name is Lynette Hooker. She's from Michigan. And her husband, Brian, says she fell off of their dinghy Friday night with the keys to the engine, which disabled the boat. And he says that she was swept away by the current and he was left to paddle to shore. Isn't that interesting? So he landed on a nearby island, did not report the incident to local police. So that's part of the issue until about 4 a.m. the following morning. The woman's daughter says she has been privy to very little information, so she has so many questions, and she says there is something about her stepfather's story that just does not add up. So again, this is the story we're following. But if you want to look more up about it, we have it on our website. But her name is Lynette Hooker from Michigan. Another story that is actually doing really well just nationally, but it's doing well on our website as well as this horse rescue from an overflowing creek near Marengo, Illinois. So this is northwest of Chicago, if you're not familiar, but people just were driving by, it sounds like. It's called Coon Creek, and they see this horse standing in the water. So obviously they called for help. First responders rescued the horse. Firefighters and sheriff's deputies found the horse just standing in floodwaters about 600 feet from the shore. They believe the horse was swept away overnight. They said the water was really, really cold. They did not know how long the horse had been in the water, but the team used a boat to rescue the horse. And then another crew, including a veterinarian, waded from the shore into the creek to try to help the horse. They brought that vet to the small peninsula where the horse was, and the horse was suffering from significant hypothermia. But the pictures are really something, so you have to see that. It's also on our website, but we're going to have that in the 4 o'clock news because our reporter is going out to that story. And then, you know, if you fly, and I don't know that a lot of people are still doing that nowadays, but some people have to. Southwest Airlines is raising their checked bag fees, and people were already mad about how they've changed their seating. You know, how you just check in A, B, C, or D, and you pick where you sit. Well, that's changed as well. You now pay for seats. But anyway, the company joins now a bunch of airlines that have raised their fees. So starting tomorrow, customers checking a bag will have to pay $45. Remember when it was free? People would choose to fly Southwest because you didn't have to pay for bags. And then if you add a second bag, it's now $55. So some people, including loyalty members, will get that free bag still, and active duty military members. But people are talking about this because this is a huge deal for a lot of people. So those are some of the top stories, including the war in Iran. There's word that the ceasefire is crumbling. The Strait of Hormuz has been closed again. So we're watching that. So a number of stories today, but that's what's at the top of the 4 right now.
Oh my goodness, the horse story. We watched a little bit of the press conference here during Chicago Live, and I was saying, you know, it's like your heart stopped when you saw the pictures. I know. Yeah. I mean, there's so much going on in the world right now. We've got, you know, astronauts out looking at the moon, but when we saw the pictures of this horse stranded, your heart broke.
Yeah, just sitting there in the water, and you know it's cold now. I recently just asked Emily if she's around. She may not be. She might be coming up to you, Anita. But I just asked her recently how cold the water was in Lake Michigan, and she still said it's really cold. Because even though we see the sun shining, we think, oh, okay, we could jump right in. No. So imagine how cold it was for the horse in Coon Creek. They were saying it's really cold. Obviously, significant hypothermia. So they're working on the horse. We're going to have the latest on that from our reporter Leslie. She's heading out there to cover it.
Oh wow, great story, and props to all those first responders that literally risked their lives for the horse. And then this story about the woman in the Bahamas.
I think everybody, really likes to follow these stories. We don't know if a crime was committed, but certainly if there was one, that's something that people are really going to be following. Because I personally know a story like that. I had a friend who experienced that with her mom and stepfather, unfortunately. And so we know these things happen. So people are following that closely, and especially if the daughter is raising questions, the woman's daughter, about it, then it's something to watch. So
Yeah.
we'll see what happens and what is found out about it, especially if he went and made his way to an island and didn't call for help the next day. We'll see.
It's a tragedy either way because her mom's gone.
It is.
But
Yeah.
when you have questions surrounding a death, that just kind of, I think, makes it that much harder to move forward without the person you love. So
the other story we're going to do today, and we're going to do a Zoom with a Northwestern physician about I just discovered this yesterday when I took the kids to the pediatrician, but it's called a Neffy spray. And I think a lot of people are familiar with epinephrine, the EpiPen, if a child has an allergy. But now there's this new spray the pediatrician told me about that doesn't require, obviously, you to use the needle, to jab the person in the leg. And the pediatrician was telling me that a lot of people actually injure their thumb if they don't administer it properly. They have it upside down and they actually break their thumb. Can you imagine? So there's this new Neffy spray that they've kind of widened access to it. It just came out, but now more people can use it according to their weight, younger children, as long as they weigh a certain amount. So we're going to have the Northwestern doctor on because this helps a lot of people who don't like the needles, who don't want to carry that EpiPen. This is just a little spray thing you spray up your nose. It's not covered by all insurances yet, I've discovered, but we're going to talk about it because I think it'll help people who just have this aversion to needles and don't want to have the EpiPen. And hopefully one day it'll be, affordable and accessible to more people.
Absolutely.
That's going to be at 4 o'clock.
A lot of great things coming up at 4 o'clock, so we appreciate you getting us ready for it. Thank you so much for your time.
No problem.
All right, we'll see you on the air very soon. All right, everybody, it's 3:21. I'm not backing the time up. 3:21. We're going to take a 2-minute break, and we'll be right back with our next conversation. Welcome back, everyone. We're approaching 3:25 right now, and one of the most controversial conversations that's happening, community after community after community, really called us, even here as a station, to do a special report on data centers. The weighing the pros and the cons of data centers. We see it throughout the state of Illinois, and we've even had the governor come out and do a moratorium on certain aspects of data centers. We've seen the conversation for Aurora and Naperville and so many other communities. We've talked to our friends in Indiana about their reservations when it comes to data centers. And just a short while ago, about 45 minutes ago, we were having a conversation with someone with a group in Wisconsin, and those folks in that community just got a referendum and just voted that in the future they will have more say in whether they already have one now, but they will have more say as to whether data centers continue to build in their community. So it's something that so many communities are having to face, and there is a group, or maybe several groups, that have come together in Springfield right now who are lobbying, and especially one of the big things that they have is the Power Act, which is supposed to protect water, energy, and ratepayers from data center harms. And I have Kavi Chintam, who is joining me now. Thank you so much for your time.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. Happy to be here.
Tell me why today was the day for you all to be in Springfield.
Good question. I think we're in the middle of the legislative session. There are a lot of bills that are facing deadlines right now, and more importantly, a lot of people are starting to see or have already seen their utility bills go up. And there is a need for action now when it comes to data centers. I think there's also, as you said, a lot of communities across the state and across the country are fighting back to make sure that they aren't only experiencing the negative harms of data centers and that they have a say. And this is really the prime time for constituents in Illinois to let their legislators know that action needs to happen to make sure data centers are paying their fair share, being transparent, and making sure that communities are not harmed in that process.
Let's break down several aspects of that. And so I'll start where you ended, which is so that communities aren't being harmed. What are the crucial aspects? You mentioned the energy bills going up, but what are the crucial aspects that you all have seen over time that make you say, I've got to fight back against this?
So data centers truly are unprecedented. I know that's a word that's thrown around a lot, but they really are. Their demand on our power grid is like nothing we've seen before in such a short and concentrated amount of time. So it's really important that all households and all small businesses across the state of Illinois are not the ones footing the bills for these big tech companies. Instead, we want to make sure that these data center companies are paying for power grid upgrades, for example, and bringing their own new clean energy in order to help support the grid rather than strain it. There are also direct impacts to communities. For example, backup diesel generators is something they use in times when the grid is down or whatever. They can turn on diesel engines, and there was a case of a data center in Aurora, actually, that had these backup diesel generators running for over 24 hours, and residents around the area said that it sounded like jet engines. So it's not just the air pollution that backup diesel generators can cause, it's also the noise pollution, and that is just one of many things. Also, our water is impacted by data centers.
Oh, I think that we might have a little glitch in the system with Kavi. Hopefully we can get her back online here. The Power Act, again, was the chief reason why they were down in Springfield today, as she was taking us through some of the things that they have found over time that could be, they believe, harmful to communities. They were also championing the Wetlands Protection Act. That's supposed to safeguard Illinois wetlands, after Supreme Court rollbacks. And then there's the polystyrene foam foodware ban, and that is supposed to phase out what they say is the worst single-use plastic. So there were several reasons why they were down in Springfield today. Kavi, I think we have you back. I'm not sure if you remember exactly where you got cut off, but if you want to continue, you're more than welcome.
Sure. I'm not sure where I cut off. The building just randomly lost power.
Oh.
So that's what happened.
Small problem.
We're all good. I got on my mobile hotspot. But I'm not sure where it dropped off, but ultimately there are backup diesel generators that these data centers use that can cause massive air pollution and noise pollution in communities. They can make our utility bills go up as they make more strain on the power grid, and they can potentially harm our water supply as well, which we have the Great Lakes near us. We're very lucky for that, but we have to be sustainable stewards of that water, and data centers use a lot of water to cool down the servers that are housed in them. So we just need more transparency so that communities know what they're working with in the first place, and also the harms that we do know already are possible from data centers, that those are minimized as much as possible.
So what do you say to those? And we have spoken today to a mayor who is fully on board for a data center in his area. What do you say to those who see the transparency, they know what they're getting themselves into, or believe that they know what they're getting from a data center, and say, bring it to our area? How do you feel about that?
I think that there is potential economic opportunities that data centers can bring to communities, but if that doesn't go hand in hand with really investigating what the full impact of a data center is, then the economic impact is kind of moot. I think it makes sense that certain mayors and other legislators are interested in that economic impact that these companies can bring, but I think it's really important to engage with constituents to find out what other things are important, because at the end of the day, economic growth that a data center brings is not ultimately going to help with the higher utility bills that people will feel, or if our drinking water supply is hugely lessened, that is also not going to help that. So I think we have to be realistic about the impacts data centers have, both good and bad, and I don't think those things are mutually exclusive. I think that, if a mayor wants a data center, I think they need to engage with their community and make sure that that is actually what is best for the community, and that if a data center is built, it is being done with proper guardrails and rules and restraints, regulations, and engaging with the community is an important part of that.
Yeah, and when you speak of engaging with the community, I want to ask you just a couple of other questions before I let you go. We also spoke with someone with Great Lakes Neighbors United up in Wisconsin. They just got a data center in their area, but they also, after fighting that fight and losing, quite honestly, against the data center, they had this put to a referendum and for voters to weigh in on this, and so they've now first of its kind referendum here. They say this will be a blueprint for AI infrastructure opponents around the country now when it comes to data centers moving forward. Had you heard about this movement and the referendum that they had?
Yeah, there's so much action happening in local communities organizing around data centers. And I think an important thing to note is that these communities are doing really great work in making sure that they are getting transparency from these companies, making sure that they are able to get transparency with their local governments in the deals that are being made, and making sure that they are getting a cut of the benefits that data centers and their wealth can bring. But the important thing here is that not every community is well resourced enough to organize around a data center. So there might be one community in Illinois or wherever in the country that is able to push back and win things and, have a moratorium until there are regulations put in place or whatever. But there might be another community that simply, for whatever reason, doesn't have the resources to do that. And that is why a statewide mandate is extremely necessary to make sure that every community in the state of Illinois is on a level playing field, and that data center companies don't just go to communities that are under-resourced and not able to organize around them.
Yeah. And on a final note, for Rally Day, what has that looked like? How many people came out? What's your feeling from it?
Yeah, we had about 250 people from across the state of Illinois come out. It was really incredible energy. We met with many legislators. The House is in this week, so we met with representatives from across the state. It's always really cool to have constituents engage directly with their lawmakers. Legislators work for us. So, when we bring the people to them, they have to listen. And I think it helps for folks to frame the data center issue from their own personal standpoint and how it would affect a certain district. We also had a really great rally where people spoke about the different bills that we were advocating for, and the Power Act protecting our water, energy, and ratepayers. Those remarks really focused on how can we protect communities, how can we make sure power bills stay low and aren't just always increasing, and how can we make sure that our important water infrastructure and waterways in Illinois are protected. And there was a lot of motivation around that. The vibes were really good. People were really excited, and I think it's just a testament to how much data centers are in the public right now, and how much it's just a topic of conversation wherever you go. And we really saw that spotlight on them today, and it was good to talk to legislators about that too, because they're certainly hearing about it. And then I think hearing about the solutions that we have brought forward in the Power Act is also extremely important. So we're not just bringing them problems, we're bringing them solutions as well.
Kavi, thank you so much for being here on the show. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
All right, you take care. 3:36, everyone. Give us 2 minutes. We'll be back with our chief meteorologist who just walked in so we can get an update on this weather outside. 3:38. She's still here.
I'm still here. That's what we're laughing about.
That's what we were
Still
laughing
here.
about.
Still here.
Wait,
Still
it's
very
any
pregnant.
day, any day. Oh, we're glad that you're here.
Yes.
And we are so happy about the sun shining outside today.
Yeah, you know, it's stunning today. We have temperatures in the upper 60s, low 70s. It's feeling wonderful.
Look at all those folks.
I know. Well, it's a big difference from yesterday. You know, not a lot of people were out there yesterday because, of course, we were running about 30 degrees colder yesterday afternoon. Today we're in the upper 60s, low 70s. It's feeling great. It is gusty, but it's okay because it's actually the reason that we have the warm temperatures today. So those strong southerly winds are kind of transporting that warmer air into the region. And it's going to stick around too. We do have rain in the forecast tonight, but it's just going to be scattered. We can handle that. Most of it's coming during the overnight, and a lot of us are going to be drying out tomorrow morning again. Temperatures tomorrow looking just as nice as today. And the majority of Thursday is also going to be mainly dry. Just seeing, you know, some clouds here or there passing by, a little bit of sunshine in the mix too. So, you know, all in all, things are looking pretty good around here. And the timing of the rain with almost every system that's coming through is coming at a very convenient time for a lot of us. It's during the overnight. So we still get to get out and enjoy these nice temperatures. So
the 60s, 70s that we have today, those temperatures are hanging around?
They're hanging around through tomorrow. We have a brief setback coming our way on Friday. And
a
then
setback going into the weekend?
Going into the 50s, though, which is okay. Because average is 56. So, you know, that high of 54, some rain showers around on Friday, that's okay. Just, you know, don't take an early weekend this week. You know, work your Friday. And then Saturday, things look pretty good. We're getting back to seeing sunshine, highs near 60. And then next week,
see a whole lot of clouds.
See a lot of clouds, a lot of storm chances. And actually, early next week, we're really going to have to be on the lookout again for strong to severe thunderstorms. So there's a few locations, not necessarily over the Chicagoland area, that's already highlighted for severe storms, but I think we're close enough to that region that's just off to our south and our southwest Monday into Tuesday that we may end up being kind of on the fringes here of seeing strong to severe storms Monday and Tuesday, so we'll have to look out for that.
When you say on the fringes, what area?
So as of right now, it looks more so like the Mississippi, the Mississippi Valley there, farther to the south. I think they're going to get hit a little bit harder than we are, but we could be on the northern edge of that threat going into early next week. So we're still several days away. Things can change, but usually whenever you see, you know, day 5, day 6, day 7 outlooks coming from the Storm Prediction Center, they tend to be fairly accurate that there's going to be severe weather, at least in the region. So, you know, it's really going to be something to watch for us, but temps still looking really good. And again, almost every single one of those days that we do have rain chances on, they don't look like washout. I think the rainiest day that we're going to have is probably going to be on Friday when we have those cooler temperatures. And then on the days that we have the warmer air, it's looking pretty decent.
Do you think that, so we're trending into the...
I think we've arrived, everybody.
All right,
I think
now.
we've arrived. So next week, after that stretch of 70s that we're going to see in the early part of the week, I think we see another very brief cool down, maybe a day or two.
Okay.
And then we're right back up into the 60s again.
And when we say brief cool down, the last couple of days it was like, wait a minute.
Well, that was a cold down.
Yeah.
That wasn't necessarily a cool down.
Hold up now.
Yes, I don't think it's going to be quite as extreme. So as of right now, models are trying to bring us down into the 40s, which we were just in the 30s yesterday. So, you know, it could be cold for this time of the year, but I don't think we're looking at any freeze. You know, I don't think we're looking at any snow. So, you know, it can't be that bad.
Okay.
Right? Come on, positivity,
It's
Anita.
Chicago. It's Chicago.
It is.
Listen, I mean, I think even when we were talking about like snow earlier this week, I was like, oh, Chicago.
I know.
So
but you know what? We slept through it, so it's
we
okay.
We did. It was just the fact that we had to say it right
I know.
now. It's like, what is going on?
That's okay. I get the heat for that, not you.
That is true.
That's true.
We are.
People just tell me they don't want to hear it.
Fair weather friends. Fair weather friends. When it's great, you're great.
Yeah.
When it's not,
I try to be great all the time, everybody. I really do.
We always appreciate you coming up. And, we've had several stories about the cherry blossoms this week.
Yes,
and
they're so
even
beautiful.
when we were talking about the colder weather, I was worried about the cherry blossoms.
Yeah. Well, the next couple of days is going to be wonderful to get out there. I don't know what type of tree it is, but it's not the pink flowers, but they're white flowers. I've noticed in my neighborhood those are out as well. I've started to see just a couple tulips.
Yeah.
Just a couple, not a lot. But we're getting there.
Yeah. We love our tulips around here.
I can't wait to see Michigan Avenue when they all
It's so
pop
beautiful.
up. I know.
It's so
Best
beautiful.
time of the year.
Yeah. And all of the photographers get out and take the they never get old.
Yeah.
I love seeing them every year.
Yep.
Thank you for coming up. We appreciate it. We know you got to run. Don't run.
I won't run. I can't
but
run. I physically cannot do it.
You've made it. You've run the
We're
race.
here, finish line, everybody.
But thank you, and get downstairs safely for the 4 o'clock. It's about 3:45. We're going to take a 2-minute break, and we'll be back. 2:48 right now, and boy, has there been a lot of conversation today about the ceasefire for the war in Iran. It's supposed to be 2 weeks. We've hit a couple of snags today, but so far, by and large, it's holding, and the markets have reacted wonderfully to it. I mean, look at this right here, where they ended for the day. The Dow Jones up over 1,300 points. I mean, we haven't seen that in a while. In fact, as I'm saying that, that was the benchmark's best day since April of 2025. Wow. And that was coming off the heels of President Trump's first tariff announcement then. So, yeah, it's been a long time since we have seen the Dow Jones hit this type of number. The S&P 500 also up 2.51% today. The NASDAQ composite also surged to 2.8% today. So lots of things that are trending in the right direction in terms of the stock market. There is obviously still some consternation, some frustration over several things when it comes to this potential ceasefire that we are in, or not potential, but the ceasefire that we are in, whether it comes to the Strait of Hormuz. Iranian state media today said they were closing the Strait of Hormuz. The White House said that is false. The Strait of Hormuz is open. You heard on our air here for Chicago Live, the vice president said the traffic is actually up in the Strait of Hormuz. So there's a lot of back and forth there. There's also still more conversations that need to be had, and the vice president is actually supposed to be going to Islamabad along with several other of his counterparts that will be going. Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, they will all be going over to Islamabad for conversations, again, to firm up this ceasefire. Another area of concern, great concern, is the attacks that are still, or are the attacks that are still happening in Lebanon. And the Iranians feel like that needs to end. The attacks are being driven by Israel, though, and President Trump has said, we have nothing to do with that. So our ceasefire has nothing to do with what's going on in Lebanon right now. So there are still some things that are uncertain as of right now. But Iran's Supreme National Security Council did agree initially to open the waterway, Strait of Hormuz, for 2 weeks as long as all attacks were halted. Again, we'll see whether they can figure out, all heads at the table, figure out whether Lebanon is going to hold that up from coming true, the 2 weeks that this is expected to hold on. But the numbers that we have seen today in terms of the stock market should suggest that all of us should want to see more of these conversations at least happening here. Yesterday, there was so much concern about that deadline kind of looming over the day, 7 o'clock deadline, our time, as to what Iran would do and what the U.S. would do if Iran didn't come to the table. So this is all spurred by some optimism here. The stock market seeing some optimism here that we may have finally found a bottom. Hopefully we are starting to bounce back and headed in the right direction. Speaking of things that are bouncing back and headed in the right direction, we're still watching Artemis headed back to Earth now. And the time frame, it's drawing nigh. We're looking at Friday, April 10th as the splashdown near San Diego. This is mission control, everybody. To sit in mission control for one of these missions. And we actually spoke to the lunar lead right before the mission, and she said she was going to be there in mission control, seated in mission control, and to look at this. Of course, it's a test flight, and most things have gone very well with this test flight thus far, and we're obviously hoping that they will complete this historic mission in grand fashion here. But they are starting. They've already made their history. They made history the moment they got off the ground, but they made history once they got on the far side of the moon. They went went further than any humans have gone before, and we're now on day 8 of their 10-day mission as they speed back to Earth. In fact, when I say speed, that speed is 1,700 miles per hour. Hard for our brains, our mere mortal brains, to comprehend. 1,700 miles per hour, but that's exactly the speed at which they are headed back to Earth. And that's when they talked about a slingshot. That's the slingshot there. So they actually held a space-to-space call this morning with the International Space Station. Super cool moment. Super cool, because again, they're not the only ones in space. They're not the only humans in space right now. So they were actually able to have a space-to-space phone call with the Orion capsule and share some jokes with them about all being up in space right now. This just has been an amazing moment for the country, for the world, really. These 3 Americans and 1 Canadian that are on Artemis 2 right now, and we have had incredible images, absolutely incredible images that we have gotten from them. They are breathtaking in many ways, what we are seeing from their vantage point, and it's been, again, a successful lunar flyby. This test, they've been doing their daily exercise regimens up there, and even that has been a part of the test. As they've been up there, they've been obviously you're breathing a little harder when you're exercising, and they've even tested that because, of course, what they're looking for is how we sustain life in the future out there. So it's all really cool. I'm hoping that, the little ones who are watching all of this and learning so much from it will take a lot of it into the future as well. It's a moment for all of us to take in and continue to have them in our prayers as they make their way back for Splashdown on Friday. 2 minutes and we're back to close out the show. All right, everyone. It's 3:58 right now. I actually was just glancing over to our air as they get ready for the 4 o'clock, and I saw one of the absolute coolest videos of the Harlem Globetrotters teaching the Pope how to spin a ball on his finger. Super cool. Anyhow, we hope that you will be right back here with us tomorrow again from 1 to 4 p.m. Who knows what we'll be talking about by then, but we always appreciate you being here for the conversations. We'll see.
Almost anything.
I almost
roll
made,
it.
no,
Roll it.
don't.
Roll it.
I do not want you rolling this.
There it is.
Do not
Too bad.
roll this.
All right. We'll see you tomorrow.
Live from Chicago, this is Fox 32 News at 4.
Breaking news at 4, barely a day in, the ceasefire in Iran looks to be crumbling.
The Midwestern mom missing in the Bahamas. How did she go overboard? And her daughter is asking darker questions.
Back in the barn, safe and sound. A wonderful update just in about the horse rescued from floodwater.